What's good, gang? I'm Theo Kane, this is Slimehouse TV, and in today's video, as you can see, you're joining me from a room that I haven't filmed in for like the best part of a year, my office slash toy room. Now, although in the last few months I've talked a lot about toy making on the channel, fundamentally the reason why I love toy making so much is because I love collecting vintage toys, and I feel like this is a room that I haven't covered on this channel in a long time. I haven't done a room tour in well over 2 years. I did something like over a year ago that was kind of like a room tour, but not really. It was more like a catch-up episode. So what I wanted to do today is give you like my most in-depth room tour that I've ever done in this building. Like I have never covered the toy room in its entirety like I'm going to in this episode for you today. It's something that's been highly requested by all of the people that watch my channel. They always say, let's get a room tour, because I've filmed lots of other people's toy rooms, but never really in-depth filmed my own, at least not for many, many years. So that's what I'm going to do today. Very impromptu, very unscripted. I'm going to grab my camera and I'm going to take you around every inch of this room, inch by inch, shelf by shelf. Let's do this. So from the top, there's a couple of things that you might recognise from very early Slimehouse videos. We've got the Nightmare on Elm Street board game there, which I reviewed when we did a video shop with Celluloid Screams years ago, an Arrow video. I did a video shop with them and I filled it with loads of horror merchandise, and while I was in that shop I did some filming and I reviewed that game there, the Nightmare on Elm Street board game. These are also really cool. I picked these up in Japan, these Toy Island, Robocop and Terminator. Now you might remember because I pulled these out years ago in lockdown when I did a little documentary on the Kenner Terminator figures and just spoke a bit about like related toys that came out around the same time. So I got these in Akihabara at a jungle shop and they were like $10 each. They were so cheap I couldn't leave them. Not the kind of thing that you're looking for when you go out to Japan, but when you see them for like $10 each, you can't leave them. We've got this cool Amiga joystick. Well, you can actually use it with lots of different consoles, but I use it with the Amiga. But that's really cool. There's also a Terminator, one of them that I'd really love to pick up as well. Got a boxed Mego Hulk here. This is a really nice piece that my dad gave me from his old collection. Growing up, like most people that probably watch this channel, I was a big fan of the old Marvel comics. Not so much a fan of the new stuff that they make, but very much a fan of old school Marvel, so this is something that I really love. I love this artwork on the box as well. Got the box for a little Whittle Goblin there. That's my friend Whitty's toy, her little miniature model that she makes, and I've got the actual one on display in the studio, but the box lives in here. Got an old Mego Doctor Who TARDIS boxed here. I used this as well in another video where I talked about my Doctor Who collection. That all came from my dad's collection, but big fan of the old Doctor Who stuff, like the old 60s, 70s and 80s stuff, so that's a real nice piece. So back here, if you can see it, I've got a boxed Powerloads attack ship. So this is in its box, but you can take it in and out. Sometimes I display it with the figures, which I'll show you later, but I'm a big fan of the Revell Powerloads line. There's only like one that I need now to complete the set and a couple of the accessories, so yeah, big fan of that Wayne Barlow stuff. This is also a really cool Mad Scientist dissecting alien figure. I've got the box for it over here, and I picked this up from one of the Ancient Mariner little toy visits that we did to his house, looking through all these boxes of storage, and I couldn't leave this guy. Big fan of old school 80s and 90s gross out toys, and this is a really awesome piece. You can slice his stomach open and pull out all his guts and his organs and do a full alien autopsy. So who wouldn't have loved that as a kid? I've got the box for an Intruder here, and then that's the Intruder himself. And you'll notice lots of 60s, 70s and 80s Action Man stuff dotted around this room and around my toy collection, because if you didn't know, growing up my dad was a huge collector of Action Man, and a lot of his collection is now in my collection. So underneath him is the Vanishing Vault from Beetlejuice, which as a kid I used to call the Beetlejuice bed, and my friend had one of these and I never did, and I always really wanted one. Also, this is quite fitting as well because the new Beetlejuice movie came out like yesterday or today or something like that. Hearing mixed reviews, but excited to see it, so yeah man, always love me some old Kenner Beetlejuice. Displayed behind those, I've got a Masters of the Universe boxed Dragon Walker, which is in a very tatty box, but a lot of the time when it comes to the boxes on these, I'm just happy to have them in any form because I just like the artwork. So yeah, it doesn't have the inlay and things, it has been out of the box, but still a nice piece, and I picked that up like years and years ago for about £4. That's balancing there on an Ecto 3. We've also got some Robo Force, and yeah, as I just showed, the box for the Dissecting Alien Mad Scientist playset. So moving on to the second shelf on this racking, what we got? So right round here we've got a Bravestar Sandstorm in its box. I pulled this out recently when I did my little Bravestar Fort Kerrion video, which I'll talk about later because I'm going to show you that all set up in this room, but I always really like that figure. This is another thing that you'll see dotted around this room quite a lot, a Boglin. I picked this up from my friend Neil at the Doncaster Toy Fair last year. You might have seen the video where I found that, so he's a really nice piece to have because he's one of the rarer ones. Some more boxed Doctor Who here, which you might have seen again if you watch the video that I did on them. We've got the giant robot, and then we've got Leela, whose hair I still haven't shampooed and fixed, but I will do one day. You'll see quite a few of these toys as well dotted around my collection. Big fan of the old $6 Million Man figures. These again came from my dad's collection. I did have some of these, but not boxed, so these ones are like mint condition. The boxes are not in the best condition, but they're still awesome. I think my friend Kev is also going to make me some protective cases for these as well. So yeah, little reminder, Kev, if you're watching, need some boxes for these at some point, my brother. Got a little boxed Ghost Zapper back there, and also a Thundercats Thunder Tank. Again, something else that I picked up years ago from a car boot from our friend Dinky, and yeah, it was about a £5 at the time. I've got a boxed $6 Million Man Bionic Transport and Repair Station. I actually got this out in a video last year, or maybe the year before. Time is really flying at the minute while I do these YouTube videos, but that was a lot of fun to put together. I've got the box here for the Creepy Cruiser, the Beetlejuice car that I just showed you. Again, really like these figures and really love the use of the colour palette on them. Whenever I think of black and white, still to this day, I always think of Beetlejuice. Then you've got that little pop in neon green and the purple. Big fan of the colour schemes on these toys. And what I've got here finally to finish off this shelf is a Bucky O'Hare Toad Croaker with Bucky O'Hare and Deadeye Duck's Sat Pilot in the back of it. Big fan of this line, big fan of these toys, and again, is a toy line that I did cover on the channel years ago, but I should probably go back and give it a revisit because I could film it and cover it way better now. Something else you'll also notice about this room is that there's like toys stacked in front of other toys because I just don't have the space. Like I said, I've got enough for like 2 toy rooms, 2.5 toy rooms or something like that. So yeah, sometimes I have to like stack things in front of one another. For example, here I've got some really nice Japanese Takara Shonin Cyborg carded stuff, but it's covering up a Blast Magus Mighty Max and then also a boxed Ranko. So here I've got a Matchbox Max Effects Freddy Krueger figure in the box, but then that's getting covered up by some Masters of the Universe stuff. And it is kind of a shame because ideally you'd have all this stuff displayed on its own merit. But like I said at the start of this video, I've got enough for like 2 toy rooms, so you just have to put things where they fit for now. Got a nice Masters of the Universe carded Cobra Khan here, and that's covering up a Vacman. I've also got here a couple of original, not reproduction, Beast Wars figures, so I've got Optimus Primal and Megatron. I've got a few more of these in storage as well, and again, I did do a video on these covering them like a year or so ago, so yeah, go back and see that if you didn't already, because I took some really nice shots of these things. And then down here on the bottom shelf, there's another couple of vehicles that you might recognise if you saw the video essay that I did on them, because I did a whole episode on Manta Force. So this is the Stinkhorn Bog Rocket and then the Black Barracuda. And then finally, right at the back, I've got an LJN Thundercats Fist Pounder, a Mutant Fist Pounder, and then a Mighty Max Skullmaster, which admittedly is a box that's definitely seen better days. We've got an Action Man training tower here as well, which I picked up a couple of years ago from a vintage centre in Sheffield, and to be honest, it's kind of big and I could do with folding it up and putting it in storage, but I just really like it out on display. Also, speaking about boglins that I said earlier, they're littered around the room and stuff, this is also a great place to display some of the boglins. It looks like it's got a bit of a boglin invasion going on. So another couple of cool pieces here. You might remember this Cacodemon is the thing that actually inspired me to make a Turgo action figure. I did a whole video where I talked about how I wanted to get this coin bank from Amazon and then they weren't selling it anymore. So I ended up buying a 3D printer and sculpting my own version of it and then turning it into a toy, which is now Turgo. So I picked this up actually recently from my friend Booms when we were doing one of the studio updates, and yeah, really happy to now have it in the collection. And next to him is Rude Ralph, a cool 80s gross out Madballs inspired toy, which you might also recognise from my Christmas episode because Bill Making Stuff talked about his that he got for Christmas. And there's some other little cool bits in here, including one of my favourite toys of all time, this thing called the Purple People Eater, which is actually a game by Waddingtons. Again, something that I did a little episode on before, talking about my experience of finding one of these as a kid in the garden of an old house that we used to live in, and wondering as a kid why it was so small and yeah, why it wouldn't fit on my head, because I thought it was a Halloween mask at the time. And then above that, we've got the first of 2 little toy rack displays that I've got in this room. Now, as you can see, these are like cards and cards and cards deep of old 80s and 90s toys. And there's so many little bits and bats that you'll recognise here from different Toy Fair hunts and different Slimehouse videos, because I often pick up carded figures. There's often lots of lines that I'm trying to complete. And a lot of the times when I want to do a video on a line, I want to have them all loose, but it's also nice to have a couple carded as well to represent the card art in the video. So whenever I see a figure that I'm looking for and it's carded and it's cheap, I always try and pick it up and I put them on these racks. And I'll be honest, most of the toys on this rack are not really worth too much. A lot of them are like 20, 30, 40, 50 pound figures, but if you've got a keen eye, you might spot the odd one that's like a little bit of a hidden gem in there as well. And up here are a bunch of pegs where I keep a lot of my modern day Bandai Sofubi. Now, most of my Sofubi I keep downstairs. I've got like a display on the yellow shelves that you might have seen in my videos before. I'll show them in a future video. I'll do a proper review on the whole thing, but these are all new ones that I picked up when I were in Japan, and you just see these all over. They're in all types of shops. You get them in the official Ultraman store, but then you also get them in the stores that are like their equivalent of B&M bargains and stuff, and they're always like $5, $6 or something like that. So anytime I go past a rack of them, I always try and pick a couple up. This Kamen Rider Decade here I picked up when I went to the Kamen Rider, the diner. They had lots of different options, but I thought he'd be a good one to come home with, because that was a series that kind of like showcased and celebrated all the different Kamen Riders that came before it. So yeah, he felt like the best one to pick up when I went there. And other than the odd figure like the Kamen Rider that I just showed you and stuff, most of these are all from the Ultraman TV show. They're all from the different eras of Ultraman. Ultraman is a show that's been running for years and years and years, decades in Japan, so there's lots of different kaiju to choose from, and these are some of my favourites. Now what I've got here is this alcove that's full of all different stuff. Now when I moved into this house, this was a wardrobe, but I knocked it out and turned it into this like display area, and I would love to at some point put some perspex on the front of this and have some big vinyl text saying Mandarake so that it looks like one of the toy shops that I love to visit when I'm in Japan. But until then it's all wide open, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a zoom in so you can see some of the stuff that's in here, because there's some real nice pieces in this. Again, no rhyme or reason to it, just anything that fits, anything that looks nice and symmetrical and doesn't look too crowded. But yeah, some of my favourite pieces are in this alcove area. So at the very back of the very top shelf, we've got my Gladiators collection. I've got pretty much all of the Gladiators figures, and for some time I have planned on doing a showcase episode showing them all off and just never got round to it. At the very back of this shelf on both sides, I've got a pair of gumball machines. That was a story for another day, but basically we found a warehouse with about 200 gumball machines in and other stuff, and that was a really good find that day. Got my favourite platformer game of all time, Turrican and Turrican 2 on either side of there. Not a big game collector, but there's some that I really love and I have to showcase, and Turrican is always up at the top for me. My Fiendish Feet pots there that my dad found in a skip, and the prices of these have gone crazy now. They're just yogurt pots, but back in the day most of them will have got thrown away, so now people pay a pretty price for these. Like 40, 50 quid a cup, which is crazy because they're literally just yogurt pots. Got the box for a Food Fighters vehicle back there, the combat carton, which is like an egg box. I'll show you my Food Fighters later. They're all loose, but that's the box for one of the vehicles there. Got lots of this stuff. Predator, Terminator and Aliens, Kenner boxed and loose, and lots of that stuff. All something else I'd like to showcase better in a video at some point. Also got a vehicle there from Hook, the one with the boxing gloves on the front. I don't remember the name. And then the card from another Shonin Cyborg figure. Got a full set of Mad Balls wind-ups here, a full set of them all carded. I picked these up in Japan in Harajuku in a little toy shop that I always like to go in, and as you can see they cost 3,500 yen, which is less than 20 quid, which is crazy because if you saw these at a toy fair now they'd be a lot more expensive. We've also got a Freddy Krueger stick-up figure on the card. That did fall off the card at one point, so I had to glue it back, unfortunately. But yeah, really weird little figure there. There's so much crazy Freddy Krueger merchandise, like that game that I showed you earlier, and the Max Effects figure and some other stuff that I'll show you. I love all the weird and wonderful Freddy Krueger merchandise that came out in the late 80s and the early 90s. We've also got some Ninja Turtles fake tattoos. I've got a couple of packs of these on this shelf. We've got a Grimlock there, Gen 1 complete. Got a Mumra little card set that I got from Raygun Cards. He made that and put them on these like little blister packs, so cool. And then up here we've got a Mobile Cop. I used to be big into knockoff figures, and in particular Robocop knockoff figures for some reason. So yeah, just something that I always enjoyed hunting down and collecting for. I've got a Mattel Suckerman here, got some Horror Pets, a Snake Face from Masters of the Universe, and right at the back there, something that my dad gave me for Christmas this year, a Marx Geronimo Native American. Got a boxed Mighty Max Skull Mountain here, trapped in Skull Mountain. It's not actually in there, I've got it displayed downstairs, but that's the box for the one that I've got. And yeah, always been a massive fan of this artwork. In my opinion, maybe some of the greatest toy art of all time. What do you reckon? Let me know what you think. Speaking of bootlegs as well, next to it I've got a boxed Megadons figure, and I picked this up in one of the vlogs that I used to do years ago for the Patreon. But these are really cool. They're like a knockoff vehicle that fit both He-Man figures and then like 3 3/4 Star Wars size figures as well. So random, but yeah, I love these things. Above that, we've got a boxed Visionaries Capture Chariot, and I'm not even a big Visionaries collector or anything like that. I actually sold all my loose figures years ago, but I kept this thing because I found this at a car boot for a couple of pound. It had 2 vehicles inside, some Ultraman figures and stuff, and it's just a nice reminder of how car boots used to be, like 15, 20 years ago. Not anymore. Got more knockoff gold here, a T2 figure, not Terminator, just T2. Some weird looking Schwarzenegger T800, and then talking about weird Freddy figures, check this guy. Looks like he's about to start top rocking and then bust out a little windmill. Then we've got the box for the Purple People Eater there. Like I said, one of my favourite toys ever. Let me move some of this stuff and I'll show you what's behind it. Got another one of these Mego Hulks. This was a cool Mil Mascaras figure that I picked up when I were in Japan because I love luchador culture and all that kind of thing. But what I've got here on both sides, some old Boglins, and I've had these for years and years and years and years. This one's box isn't in the best condition, but yeah, love Boglins. And then down to the last shelf, I've got the Ninja Turtles roller skates there that you might have seen me restore in a video before. Got the box for my Action Man Gargan down there. Another one of my most favourite toys of all time. Covered it many times in videos. Got a lot of love for this thing. Got the ship for the Pirates of Darkwater there. And that's another toy line that I collected all the bits for. And I plan to do like a showcase episode at some point, but just not got round to it yet. Just something else on the list that I've never got round to finishing. Got the box there for my Action Man Space Speeder. Another thing that my dad gave me from his old collection. I've got so many cool Action Man bits that I'd love to display and have like cabinets full of just that, but just right now not got the room for it. But hopefully at some point one day I'll be able to have all them displayed properly the way that I want them to look. Got a really nice boxed Bandai piece there, a Mothra figure that I got from Gareth at Cosmic Toys pretty recently actually, like less than a year ago or something. And that should probably actually be downstairs with all of the Kaiju and the Sofubi stuff, but yeah, it's there for now. Got some more cool little hidden pieces here at the back. We've got a Corgi Stop Boris. I really like this thing. It's like a weird random toy where you fold the mat out on the floor and then shoot it with a laser gun. Another thing that I did a video on years and years and years ago. Got another boxed Boglin there, Slog, which is like the tadpole Boglin with the long tongue. He's a really cool toy. Got a little Coleco Sectors boxed thing at the back there. Got that from Chesterfield Market about 15-20 years ago. Cost about £4. Love that thing. And then in terms of things that's front and centre here, we've got like a real crazy mix of stuff. Some vintage Star Wars, we've got a Gozak there. This vintage Boba Fett that I absolutely love, and I'm still trying to find his blaster and his rocket for his backpack at a decent price. I've not found one yet after all these years of looking, but one day I will. Got some more $6 Million Man there, a Cylon, a vintage C-3PO, and then some Masters of the Universe above it. We've got a Hodak there. And then right at the bottom, I've got a load of carded figures that I don't know what to do with yet. I've got boxes full of carded figures that I can't display because I pick them up cheap whenever I see them, and I've got a lot from years ago. But in there, I think I've got some Reboot, some New Adventures of He-Man, and some Hook figures. Then down here at the back, I've got the box for the Black Barracuda from Manta Force, which has seen better days. It's all warped and out of shape, so I just stuff it in that corner and try and keep it the best shape that I can. We've also got here something that needs no introduction, pretty much without doubt one of the most iconic 80s playsets of all time, He-Man's Castle Grayskull by Mattel. Something that I don't need to hype up because 1,000 people have already done it before me, but yeah, no denying, absolutely iconic piece right there. This side, I've also got something that was quite a new acquisition to the collection actually, because you might have seen the episode recently where my dad found it in a house clearance at a skip. But yeah, this is the Snake Mountain, something that I didn't have for a long time, but now so happy that I do. Speaking of Mattel as well, I've also got the Crusher here, an early Mattel release figure. Really cool thing that like you attach a pipe to and pump up. Then we've got a little dude that I talked about earlier, the Gargan from Action Man, also called the Terran if it was from Super Joe in America, but yeah, like I said, one of my favourite toys of all time. I absolutely love this thing. Feels to me very much like something that could fit in with the Shogun Warriors, Godzilla and Rodan as well, which is another reason why I think I like it so much. And then last but certainly not least, I've got a $6 Million Man Bionic Adventure clothing set, something else that I got from my dad from his old collection. And then next to it, a Manta Force Battle Fortress box. Again, something that's not in there. I've got it in a box in a cupboard, keeping it safe, but the box is there. Warped, but yeah, looking awesome as ever. Okay, so now moving on to my loose figures that are all in these cabinets. And in this room, I used to have like 12, 14 or something of these cabinets, but I took them all out and just saved these 4. And when I talk about having enough toys to cover a couple of toy rooms, this is one of the reasons, because I've got a lot of loose figures as well. Lots in boxes that are not complete. Generally, in these shelves, they're all complete figures. There is some that are not complete, but I've got lots of lines that are like half finished, half complete, and they're all the ones that's in storage. I do as well, though, have a lot of figures that are complete that are not in these cabinets that I'd love to put in, but yeah, that's all stuff that I'll have to show and showcase in another episode. Now, right from the top, we've got a toy line that, if you watch my recent video on them, you'll know how much these mean to me. These are the Playmates Toxic Crusaders toys. There's also some other Toxic Crusaders bits littered in there as well. And even though there's so many toys in this room that I enjoy and action figure lines that I think are awesome, these, like I've said many times, are my favourite. There's none that top the Playmates Toxic Crusaders for me. So here on the shelf below, we've got another toy line that I've got a lot of love for, one that I've spoke about many times on this channel and featured in quite a few episodes, and that's the Mattel Food Fighters line. Now, these are not complete. There's a couple that are missing their weapons. I also don't have Sergeant Scoop, and there's one of the vehicles that I don't have as well. But yeah, absolutely love this line, and one that I'll continue to complete as the years go by. They're a toy line that I've never gone out of my way to like pay a lot of money for or anything like that. I've picked these up cheap as I've seen them. I've also had quite a few given to me, but I've got all of them apart from that one. There's one vehicle that I need as well, but other than that, they're all pretty much there, and yeah, a collection that I'm really happy to have in these cabinets. You'll probably notice a bit of dust in these cabinets as well, and as much as I love you lot that watch my videos and support what I do, I wasn't about to take every single toy out of here and dust it and put them all back just for the sake of a toy room tour. But anybody that collects toys knows the banes of dust and how hard it is to keep it off toys, even when they're behind glass like this. This is a really cool shelf in the cabinet. This has got my Mr. T figures in there. There's also a custom one that I made with my dad, kind of, because he started it and then I finished it off. And the earrings that these two are wearing, I made myself. There's a video where I actually do it. It was a lot of fun to restore these guys, and yeah, I really love old Mr. T figures. This is also the shelf where I keep a lot of my Shonen Cyborg and Muton and Cyborg stuff. I've got the 3 subforms that were released in the UK, and then I've got a couple of really nice boxed Shonen Cyborgs here that I picked up from Akihabara on my last Tokyo trip. And below them on the bottom shelf is where I keep my Bucky O'Hare figures. So here we've got a complete set if we include the ones that I showed you earlier, the Deadeye Duck and the Bucky O'Hare. Some of them have got different colour weapons and stuff because these toys were released with lots of different colour weapons. And the only thing that I don't have is Willie DeWitt's glasses. And anybody that collects these know how hard it is to find a pair of them unbroken. So side note, if you do have a pair of Willie DeWitt glasses, please holler me, because yeah, they're the only thing that I need to complete this whole set. And this here is a really cool shelf. It's got pretty much a full set of all of the Kenner RoboCop villains figures and the cops. I've also got a full set of Pirates of Darkwater in there with all of their weapons. There's a full set of Sun Gold monsters in there, the Sharp Hand Joe and the Wolfman and Dracula and all them. And then at the front, I've got a full set of Tonka Supernaturals as well, which is another line that I did a video on years and years and years ago, and definitely one that I'd like to revisit at some point. Above them, I've got all my Wayne Barlow Powerloads figures by Revell, which I talked about a little bit earlier with the vehicle that I showed you. But I really love these things. It's got the Trigor in there, which is without doubt one of my favourite toys of all time. And I know I do say that a lot, and there's lots of different toys that you can have as your favourite toys of all time. It's not my top 5 toys or anything like that, but I really love this vehicle. Such a weird, strange design by Wayne Barlow. I also really love this thing as well. I've showcased it on the channel before, the Spizer, which is kind of like an organic snail speeder bike kind of vehicle. And then I've also got, above them all, a completely different toy line, but a figure that I think kind of fits in with them, and that's Metlar from the Inhumanoids. The Inhumanoids, such a dope toy line, and I would love to get the other ones, Decompose and Tendril, at some point, but for now, I'll make do with just my Metlar. Love this guy. And then above them, we've got a toy line that I talked about very recently. In fact, my last showcase episode was about these figures, and that's the Playmates Skeleton Warriors. And then behind them, below them, are the Kenner Beetlejuice figures, which I spoke about earlier about how much I love, and just check them colours and you can fully see why. And I don't have all of these figures. There is a couple of the neighbourhood characters that I don't have that I need to get for the collection, but I've got almost a full set. There's also a couple of Captain Planet figures in there as well. That's another toy line that I've got in storage that's not complete, that I'm slowly piecing together, but these two were complete, so I thought I'd put them in the cabinet. Got some more Action Man here that my dad gave me from his old collection, and some Tommy gun as well. Like I said, I've got enough of these toys to fill like 10 of these cabinets. My dad's got a gigantic collection of them, but unfortunately I can only display a few in this cabinet here, so just put some standout ones in for now. So these are all my Rock Lords, and I love this line. These are actually a spin-off of the GoBots. There's a whole movie about them. And when I first started collecting toys again properly when I was like 16, this is the first line that I like went out of my way to try and complete. So other than 2 of the rarer Gnarlies and 1 colour variant, I've got a whole set here. They don't have all the weapons, but in terms of all the figures, that's a complete set right there. And like I said, this is the set that I put together when I was like 16, like the first actual toy line that I completed when I came back to vintage toy collecting, so always got a lot of love for this line. This is also a series of figures as well, like many of the ones that I've showed in here that I've done spotlight videos on Slimehouse years ago, but definitely need to revisit because, yeah, I've learned so much since then and I could also make a much better video now. And then below them, I've got a toy line that you'll no doubt recognise because it's one of the most iconic action figure lines of all time, and that's the original 1980s LJN Thundercats. It's funny actually as well because recently I got a comment on one of my videos, the one where I was talking about Toxic Crusaders, and I very rarely pay any attention to any negative comments on this channel, but one guy said to me basically something along the lines of, learn to collect a proper line and then come back when you know what you're talking about, little boy, learn to collect the Thundercats. And yeah, if only you knew that I have pretty much every single Thundercat. And not only that, Lion-O, Larry Kenny, the voice of Lion-O in the show, is the narrator of my movie and is a friend of mine. So yeah, maybe next time you're going to leave a negative comment on someone's video, make sure you know who you're griefing and what you're even talking about. This is also a prime example of a line that I picked up years ago before any of the hype. I never paid a lot of money for any of these. In fact, a lot of these I got given to me by a friend, and it's one that I'm very grateful to own because yeah, if I were trying to collect all these now, I'd be paying a pretty penny for a lot of these, especially with all their weapons. And then in the last cabinet, I've got all of my Masters of the Universe and then some bootleg Masters of the Universe right at the bottom. Now these are very similar to me to the Thundercats. I've had them absolutely years, way before the hype. I got most of these like 15, 20 years ago. Same with the bootleg stuff at the bottom. About 10, 15 years ago, I got on a real bootleg kick and bought loads of bootlegs. But yeah, I sold a lot of them now and just kept a few that I liked. And like I said about the Castle Grayskull, this is a toy line that needs no introduction. 1,000 other people have spoke about these before, but yeah, it's nice that I've got pretty much a full set here, and most of them I've had for many, many, many years before all the hype, because again, if I were trying to collect all these now, even though they've dropped in price a lot in the last few years, there's still some on here that would be costing a little bit more than I paid for them if I wanted to get them again now. And I've pretty much got every single weapon for all of these. I just don't have Clamp Champ's weapons and I don't have Ninja's weapons. I also don't have a Scareglow. But other than that, there is pretty much a full set here of the original Masters of the Universe figures. And I've also got on here a couple of Masters of the Universe from 2006, 2008, I forget the exact year, but basically they're like, I think, some of the best action figures that were ever made, like the last great action figure, and I've got boxes and boxes of these, loose and carded, because when they were all on discount, my dad went and bought them all. I think he bought all of the ones in Sheffield, so I've got like 10 boxes full of these loose and on card, and are something that I'm definitely going to get round to doing a video on one day, because I really, really think they are the last great action figure line. They're so, so good. There's also a bunch of really interesting stuff on top of these cabinets. I've got my original Kenner Ghostbusters Firehouse there with the Marshmallow Man, Mr. Stay Puft. Got a Talking Freddy, got some cool Playmates bits, my Toxic Crusaders vehicles. Behind them I've got this really cool Bandai Ultraman playset, and this thing's absolutely massive, and it was the first thing that I bought when I went to Tokyo last. Don't even know how I got it back because it's ginormous, but yes, by some miracle I did. In front of them I've got some more Masters of the Universe stuff and Megadons. I've got the box for my Gozak with some Moto on top of that, and then behind them I've got my original The Real Ghostbusters Proton Pack box. Up here I've got another Moto vehicle, the Landshark. I've got the Rock Lord Stonewing piloted by Magmar. Got Touchdown Terror there from the Mad Balls, some Sector's glove puppets, and then the, yeah, Talking a Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy figure from Matchbox. Absolutely love this thing. And over here, if you've got a keen eye for art toys and YouTube crafters, you'll see that I've got a Monster Toy Bunker and then also a Bill Making Stuff original. Down here I've got the helmet from a Photon, which was made famous by Tom Hanks in the movie Big. I've got an original foam finger from the OG Gladiators next to one of the new ones from when I went to see the new series of Gladiators, and you can see the size difference. There's also boxes like this just hidden around everywhere that are full of toys that I'm putting together or ones that I don't have room to display. I've got a boxed OG Amiga 500 there that was given to me by my friend Meredith. Big ups to Meredith every single time. In here is all my Hero Quest expansions and some other board games. I've got some knockoff Skeleton Warriors here, Skull Fighters that were given to me by my friend Robology. Hold tight Robology every time. I've got the loose Megadon here that I showed you the box for earlier, and he is being piloted by a really cool old Remco Warrior Beasts figure. Love these guys. Behind him we've got this really awful / awesome Aliens vs Cope Hicks figure. Now this was another thing that I picked up in Japan from the shop Jungle, the same shop that I picked up the Robocop and the Terminator that I showed you earlier, and was again like £12, so I just couldn't leave it. Over here I've got the box for the Snake Mountain. One of the things that I covered very recently in that haul where my dad found a load of 80s toys in a skip, he found this and the Snake Mountain that I showed you earlier, and a load of Brave Star pieces that I'll show you in a little bit. And although the box is in like terrible condition, if I push it up against the wall like that, it kind of holds its shape. And yeah, you've just got to love this for the artwork. Again, like the Mighty Max, like some of the best artwork that ever was put on a toy package. So moving over here, as you can see, I've got another toy rack, and this one's quite a bit bigger than the last one that I showed you. And as you can probably also see, it's just like cards and cards deep of 80s and 90s action figure gold. I've got so many carded toys and it's often quite hard to display them all, so I have to change these round and stuff, but Rambo, Body Wars and Toxic Crusaders usually always takes the front spot. And like the other one that I showed you, there's some little hidden gems if you look behind some of the cards. Lots of Kenner toys, lots of like cheaper figures and then some more expensive ones as well. Figures like the Reboot that you will have seen me picking up at toy fairs in my videos, trying to complete a full set, picking them up nice and cheap. And although this whole room can't look like a toy shop, because obviously there's just so much in it and there's so much loose and things, I like to think these little bits, these little carded areas, look a little bit like the discount toy shops that I used to go to as a kid with my mum when we went to town and stuff. As a kid, I spent a lot of time at Car Boots with my dad, and that's where I would see the loose figures, and then I would go to town on a Saturday with my mum, and these are the kind of toys that I used to see there in the discount stores on the racks. And this was a really simple thing to make. I just got a piece of wood, drew a grid on it, drilled a load of holes in it, went on Amazon and found some metal rods, bent them up at the end and then put some little red stoppers on them. And it's, like I said, a really simple system, but it really works for what I need. And what I've got here above my desk is another kind of like mismatch shelf. So as you can see on here, I've got quite a few different things. I've got a really nice vintage Japanese Gigan model kit that I got from the Ancient Mariner. You might have seen that video where I picked that up. We've got Rom the Space Knight, which I know I keep saying this over and over again, and I'm going to say it about another toy in a second as well, but this is legit one of my most favourite toys of all time. This one was released by Palitoy in England under the Action Man line as an ally for Action Man, and as I've said a couple of times, my dad was a big Action Man collector growing up, so this is one that came from his collection. I've also got here a really nice Schwarzenegger Commando carded figure by Diamond Toy Makers. I got this from my friend Bingsbot, it used to be in his collection, and then the case that it's in was actually given to me by Dino Riders UK, by the guy who gets him all of his acrylic cases. A really nice case, and when he got it and he gave it me and this fit in perfect, it just felt like it needed to be front and centre in my toy room. This is a really nice carded Modulock figure, Masters of the Universe. This is almost mint, it's unpunched, it's never been opened. It's something that my dad picked up years and years ago, probably paid hardly anything for it, and now resides in my collection, as you can see. This is really awesome. This is an original Soundwave tape player. I'm a big fan of the Gen 1 Transformers. I don't have too many Transformers pieces in this room, but I'm a big fan of the old cartoon, so this is my little way of representing that line in this collection. It also works as well, which is awesome. Sometimes I listen to tape cassettes on here and little audio books. Next to them, I've got two of what are, in my opinion, two of the best Action Man outfits that they ever made. These are from the 80s. This is a Space Ranger Commando Squad outfit, and then next to him is Captain Zargon, which, like I said about Rom, is another one of my most favourite toys of all time, and is also the inspiration behind a minifigure that I'm working on at the minute, so keep a look out for that because that's looking awesome. Behind them, as you can see, I've got two TH3 pieces. I got one of these from Ian at the Vintage Toy Monster, another one I got from Doncaster Toy Fair. A big fan of this line. You don't see them around very often, but when I do and they're a nice price, I always pick them up because, yeah, trying to get a full set of these over the years of collecting, not in any rush or anything like that, but it would be nice to get a full set of these because they're a really interesting foreign line that you just don't see very often. And as you can see at the front of this shelf, I've got a bunch of Dragon Ball Z Keshi. These are little tiny Japanese Keshi that are injection molded, and they were all sent to me by my friend Tokyo Toy Banzai, a fellow YouTuber. I'll put the link to his channel down in the description below. But he sent me a parcel like over a year ago with a bunch of stuff in, and these were in there. So yeah, really like these, and wanted to make sure they took front and center in the room. And then above them, I've got a carded Mr. T Galoob figure from the same range as the ones that I showed you earlier, the loose ones, but obviously this is boxed. Another one that came from my dad's collection and is in really nice condition. And then next to him, I've got a bunch of Action Man boxes, and apart from a couple of these, they're all original, including the Captain Zargon, which is, again, like I said earlier, one of my favourite toys of all time, and that's some of my favourite box art of all time. Absolutely love that Captain Zargon figure. There's also a Tommy Gun box as well. Tommy Gun was a toy that was released by a British company who wanted to like kind of rival Action Man at the time and never quite did, so they're very rare. And to have one in a box like that that's mint is very, very unheard of. Above them, I've got a bunch of old Tomy robots. I've got more of these in storage, but not on display. I used to be big into like little cutesy Tomy robots, like ones that look very kawaii, so they're a couple of my favourite ones. I've got an original Faco piece there, his Book of the Dead figure that he made, and then next to it some original Kenner Ghostbusters figures, including an Ecto 1 that I fixed up in a video before. That was a lot of fun. Down here I've got a really interesting thing that I got from the Ancient Mariner. I showcased this in a video before. It's like a Japanese promo item for Ninja Turtles. It all folds out into like big city playsets and stuff. That's really cool. And then above it, something that I showed very recently on the channel, a gift from my good friend who I've already mentioned once in this video, Dino Riders UK, a Japanese Velociraptor Dino Riders figure. Like, this is super, super beautiful, and yeah, so grateful to have it. And then in front of them, something that's not toys, but really cool anyway. This was made for me by my friend Jace. It uses like a saw blade for the base with some old ammo shells going up it. And then it used to have an American Marine helmet on the top, but I replaced it with this American football helmet just because I always loved that American football 80s look. Over here I've got a bunch of random 3 3/4 figures, some stuff that I've worked on, some vintage toys. I've got a bunch of Transformers Action Master figures. As I said, I'm a big fan of Gen 1 Transformers. Don't have room in this office to like display a bunch of the ones that I've got, but these ones I always really like because they felt more like action figures, so I always have a few there representing. There's a bunch of Monster in My Pocket aliens in front of them. And above them, as you can see, I've got a bunch of Ninja Turtles mutant figures. Now, as you know, I'm a big fan of the Playmates mutants, and I don't have room to display all of the individual Ninja Turtles and that kind of thing, but what I've got here are like Worm and Mutagen Man and Leatherhead and just some of the classics, and I like to have these right above me on my desk because these are the toys that inspire me more than any of the others. And then if we move above them, you can see that I've got a bunch of big movie-themed figures. I've got the 16-inch Schwarzenegger Commando figure, the Talking Jack Slater, the Terminator 2 talking figure, and the RoboCop. Both of them are what I had as a kid as well. These are my originals from when I was a little kid. My dad saved the boxes for them, and I'm so thankful that he did. I've also got these two from when I was a kid as well. These are the Talking Tales from the Crypt Keeper figures, one in the Hawaiian shirt and one in the suit. Absolutely love these things, and again, I'm so glad that my dad kept the boxes for them. And then this real random Killjoy figure, just because I thought at the time it was so weird that they made a figure of Killjoy from Full Moon. So yeah, that's also there. I've also got a bunch more Keshi on here. No vintage ones. These are mostly all Suckload Keshi, the Art Toy Artist Suckload, and then I've got some Masters of the Universe Super 7 Keshi on there as well. This El Santo figure here I actually got from El Santo Jr. and El Hijo del Santo, the son of El Santo Jr., when I watched them both wrestle at Manchester a couple of years ago. As I said, big fan of lucha culture, and to be able to actually buy an action figure from them in person and get a picture with them and stuff was absolutely amazing. I'll quickly show you these as well. I used to get these from the cereal when I was a kid. I don't know if you got these in America, but when Power Rangers the movie came out over here in Frosty's cereal, you could get these, and yeah, I begged my mum to get Frosties all the time so I could get these figures, even though I didn't like Frosties and never finished them. Sorry, Mum! Over here is one of my prized possessions, this knockoff Mad Balls bat, and I've talked about this many times on the channel, but my dad basically got this for free from the same house clearance that he got the Fiendish Feet from, and it's a whole story. Go back and watch that video about like who ended up with that after it and how I got it off him and stuff. It's a whole thing, but yeah, really love this thing, and I also use it as a stand here, as you can see, to display this old Mumra mask that I also really like. I love those old vacuum foamed Ben Cooper style masks, and yeah, just look at the colours on this thing. That just it's so perfect. Next to them, I've got a bunch of Battle Beasts and Trash Bag Bunch. They're all kind of mixed up. They don't have the right weapons in their hands or anything like that. And yeah, I don't have a full set of Battle Beasts, but I would really love to complete a set. So that's something else that I'm slowly picking up over the years. Not in any rush to do it, but whenever I see them and they're cheap and I don't have one, I always treat myself. And now I'm getting to a point with the Battle Beasts that the only ones that I need are like the rarer ones. So sometimes they have to pay like £10, £15, £20 for a Battle Beast. But every now and again, I treat myself to one because, yeah, even as a kid, these were like some of my favourite minifigures, and they're still so untouchable to this day in my opinion. And then, as I said above them, we've got a bunch of Trash Bag Bunch figures, another figure line that I really love and I've covered on the channel before. And above them, then I've got the Mad Balls head poppers. Now, I made a whole documentary about these things. You can go back and check it out on the channel if you haven't already. But I really, really love these figures. And yeah, they were not an easy set to complete, to be fair. They was not an easy set to complete, especially trying to get the horn head, which only came with the Mad Roller Cycle. Speaking of the Mad Roller Cycle, I've got that down here as well, the box for it, and then I've also got it loose next to it. Not the best condition box or anything like that, but just really nice to have it in some form of box. Got some more Action Man figures there, and next to them I've got a couple of Trendmasters Aliens. Now these are like knockoff figures of Alien and Predator, big hard rubber figures that were released by Trendmaster in the 90s, and I always really love these. Got some random Skeleton Warriors there that I just used from when I did that video that I dropped very recently. And then next to them, as you can see, the prize piece of my dad's recent skip find, and I showed a whole video on this of me putting it together and things. 100% complete, in near pristine condition, a full Bravestar Fort Kerium. Now this is a playset that I wanted for a long time, so as you can see I've got it nice and all displayed and set up in the office with some Bravestar figures in front of it. Still need a cape for my Thunderstick. If you've got a cape for a Thunderstick, please get in touch because I really need a cape for him. But yeah, I mean, it's surreal that my dad found this in a skip and it was in such pristine condition, nothing broken, and yeah, like what a beautiful piece there. As if someone would just throw that away. Crazy! And next to that, last but certainly not least, something that I got from my friend P, who is a big Ninja Turtles collector, I've got my Technodrome. Not 100% complete, there's a couple of little pieces inside it that it's missing, but yeah, like another iconic piece from the 80s and something that I'm so happy to have in my collection. So there you have it. That took way longer than I expected. Like, that took way longer than I thought it would. I thought this was going to be like a really quick thing that I just filmed in like 20 minutes, but hell no, it took a long time. But what did you think? Did you enjoy it? I'd love to know if there was anything that you saw in here that you remember from your childhood that sparked a little memory. And also, if there's anything in here that you'd love to see me cover in more depth in a future video, because yeah, I'm always down for that as well. As you know, I try to cover more of the toy making stuff on the channel at the minute, but I always have to go back to the vintage toys and the collection because, like I said at the start of this video, that's fundamentally where it all came from. And as I mentioned many times in this video, and I have many times in other episodes, like, I've got enough for multiple toy rooms. I've been collecting for so long and I've got so much stuff in boxes and in storage that, like, this room isn't even displayed the way that I would want it to be. Like, things are a lot more cramped together than I would like them to be. I don't like the lighting in this room. I would change it all now because, like, I put this room together many years ago. But it's still a really nice place to work. I love being around all this stuff that inspires me so much. I do a lot of my editing from here. I take a lot of my video calls and everything from this room. And admittedly, I spend less time in here now that I've got the studio. I still really like being in this room and working in it. So I hope you think that I did it justice. I would love to know what you think of the room tour and what you think of the collection. And like I said, if there's anything that you'd like to see more of in a future video, because I'm always down for that. If this is your first time joining the channel, I'm Theo Kane. I also have a Patreon and a private Discord that you can check out by seeing the links down below. All the people that I mentioned in this video, I'm also going to put in the description down below. And yeah, welcome to Slimehouse. So as you've probably heard me mention in many other videos, currently I'm working on like some big toy making projects at the minute. I've got the minifigures on the go. I've also got the Raziel video, which I'm hoping will be the next video that I drop. But yeah, lots going on, and yeah, it's really moving crazy at the minute here at Slimehouse, but I'm enjoying every minute of it, and I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody that supports this channel and continues to do so. So until the next video, I'm Theo Kane, this is Slimehouse TV, this is my toy room, and I will catch you in the next video, and maybe for another room tour next year, who knows. But until then, I'm gone. Pow!